Let's go to our panel, Michael Kroger and Stephen Conroy. Michael, $1.1 billion announced just this week on clean energy commitments ahead of the Biden summit tonight.
Yeah, an extraordinary amount of money, and I think probably, Kieran, the way it's going, there's more to come. But I think what Australians really need is this roadmap towards 2050. What does it mean each 5 years for jobs, for the local communities, for the environment? What does it actually mean? It's too vague, 2030, 2050. You know, what are the consequences for ordinary blue-collar men and women? I think that's what the government needs to spell out. Otherwise, it's just, they're just dollars that people can't comprehend in pursuit of goals which people don't fully understand.
Stephen, your thoughts on the government's shifting language and, I'd have to say, priorities on that front too?
Well, look, Scott Morrison knew this was going to be a hard week. You've got the world, US, China coming together, the world wanting to be seen to do more on the climate. And Scott Morrison is wanting to do as little as he can. So he's making a string of announcements. I'm always cynical when you see big numbers because they're usually spread out over many years. And when you look at them over many years, it means in each individual year, it does not in any way stack up as a substantive change. Absolutely, his rhetoric's changed. I mean, he is trying to drag the Liberal Party and the government to a position so they can say at the next election they're supporting zero net emissions by 2050. He's got a whole bunch of National Party members who are up in arms. And what he's doing to appease them is he's actually stealing Labor's policies from 2010, 2011 around which sectors could be exempt. So this is very cynical by Scott Morrison. No surprises in that. He sees this as, I've just got to get through this week, make some announcements that sound good, and then I can move on to other issues.
Marise Payne made the announcement about the Belt and Road deal being scrapped. I thought she handled this one, to be honest, a lot better, Michael. She at least gave the embassy here a heads up. They told the officials in Beijing this is coming. Bit of forewarning. They still didn't like it, but at least they're, giving them a heads up that they were going to rip this thing, tear it apart.
Yeah, well, I think it's a proper thing to do. But why the Victorian government had to enter into this into the first place? I mean, there's 138 countries around the world that have entered into these initiatives with the Chinese Communist government. A majority of them need the money and are requiring investment in infrastructure by somebody, and along came the Chinese, of course, to give a helping hand, which meant that a lot of these countries then, at least 40 of them supported the Chinese government's crackdown in Hong Kong, surprisingly. But why was it necessary for an Australian government, with the Victorian state government, to enter into this agreement, which really provides nothing? It's just a friendship gesture, but with one of the most repressive regimes in the world. It was a nonsense to begin with, and thank goodness Marise Payne and the federal government have stomped on it. Okay. And I read there are more agreements they might be looking at. Good, if companies or governments have entered into agreements with repressive regimes, let's hope the feds step in and cancel them too, Kieran.
Stephen, there's one big one, a commercial one. That's the Port of Darwin.
Absolutely. I mean, Michael will be able to tell you I have been consistently opposed to the BRA agreements between the Victorian Labor government and the Chinese Communist Party. Let's be very clear. I've been consistent. But where Michael now has the challenge is he needs to be calling for the Darwin Port Agreement to be ripped up in exactly the same way. Marise Payne and Scott Morrison will have zero credibility unless they're prepared to deal with the elephant in the room. The single most substantive arrangements that they gave permission for, they approved, and they continue to allow to be the case. So bad that the former American president raised it directly with Malcolm Turnbull years ago because it was such a shock to our American allies. So, Michael, over to you.
Okay.
Tear up the Darwin Port Agreement.
We will reconvene on that soon enough, Michael.
I hear silence.
I've got to wrap it up,
I hear
unfortunately,
silence.
my friends. Stephen, nice to chat.